The current system works fine if you're eligible for Medicaid, if you're a lower income working person, if you're already on Medicare, or if you get enough subsidies on a modest income that you can afford your health care. But the people that are getting killed in this deal are small business people and individuals who make just a little too much to get any of these subsidies. Why? Because they're not organized, they don't have any bargaining power with insurance companies, and they're getting whacked. So you've got this crazy system where all of a sudden 25 million more people have health care, and then the people are out there busting it sometimes 60 hours a week, wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
This is the first time in 9 years you have Republicans having the House and the Senate and, of course, the White House now. And it's a very exciting time because these folks have a mandate from the public to go ahead and repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare was on the ballot. People want it repealed and replaced. They want better access. They want to purchase their health care across state lines. They want, they certainly want to block grant Medicaid to the states. They want health savings accounts so that you have a health insurance policy that has your name on it.
The president-elect has said, no, we want to replace it. There has to be a replacement mechanism in place right when we repeal it, so we don't even go 2 days without people off of health insurance. Is that still where he is, that there must be a replace mechanism there when they repeal?
That's the ideal situation, Joe. Let's see what happens practically. Some people, some experts say that it could take years to actually complete the process, but there's no question that there will be different health insurance coverage in this country under President Trump.
So Americans have health care today under the Affordable Care Act. Will they have health care? It sounds like Donald Trump is saying they will have health care.
Yes, he is.
Under whatever replaces it.
That is correct. We don't want anyone who currently has insurance to not have insurance. Also, we are very aware that the public likes coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Her opponent said, oh, just repeal it all, the market will take care of it. That didn't work out very well for us, did it? We wound up with the most expensive system in the world, and we insured the smallest percentage of people. The insurance model doesn't work here. It's not like life insurance. It's not like casualty. It's not like predicting flood. It doesn't work. Here's the simplest thing. Figure out an affordable rate and let people use that, something that won't undermine your quality of life, won't interfere with your ability to make expenses, won't interfere with your ability to save money for your kids' college education, and let people buy in to Medicare.
The health care debate in America is plagued by the assumption that because health care in America is so complicated, the solution to its problems must be complicated. This is not the case. We must remember that the goal of the establishment is not to clarify the issues, but to keep the people confused. The goal of the establishment is to inch relentlessly towards increased profits, and the effort is made easier if the people are confused and scared. Neither the problem nor the solution is complicated or difficult to grasp. Further, if the essential facts are identified and analyzed, the fog over the debate should lift and the way forward should be obvious. Let's begin with the indisputable fact that America spends more of its wealth on health care than any other country in the world. America spends 18% of its GDP on health care. This is $8,600 for every man, woman, and child in America. What does America get for all of this money? Not very much. The World Health Organization ranks America number 37 internationally in quality of health care. This is abysmal. We have millions of people with no medical care, approximately 50,000 people die each year from untreated disease, and countless cases of illness are exacerbated by delayed treatment. If America is the greatest country in the world, shouldn't we be number one in health care? Who is number one? France is number one, and the French only spend 11% of their GDP on health care. This works out to $4,100 per person. The Japanese have the longest life expectancy. Their system is ranked number 10. The Japanese only spend 10% of their GDP on health care. This works out to $2,800 per person. Mr. Gecko will present the problem with American health care in crystalline form.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit.
The healthcare industry in America is a three-headed monster. First is the doctors, clinics, and hospitals. Second is the drug companies, the equipment companies, and the medical device companies. Third is the insurance companies. No one person or group is to blame for the problems in American healthcare. Almost everyone working in healthcare is good, honest, and caring. Instead, the problem is systemic. The problem is that every point of interaction is designed to extract a profit. Ultimately, of course, those profits are passed on to the consumer, and this results in a system that costs twice as much as the best system in the world, and it has a lower level of care. The proof is in the pudding. The insurance companies are the biggest, although by no means the only culprits. On the one hand, they add no value whatsoever. They are leeches in the most quintessential form, moochers in the parlance of these times. And on the other hand, the fact of the matter is that they make money when they do not approve services, and they lose money when they approve services. Thus, they have a powerful motive to say no. They have a powerful motive to delay and deny, and delay some more and hope that you die. That's what they want. They want you to die so they can keep your money. Of course, the screaming headlines are that the insurance companies are losing money with Obamacare. They're griping about how they either have to raise their premiums or quit the system. They say this not because it's true, it's not, but to scare people, to make them grateful for what they have, and to soften them up for even worse policies. Let's look at the charts of four major players in Obamacare. Here is the chart for Aetna. When Obamacare was passed in the spring of 2010, Aetna stock was trading at $30. Now it is trading at $125. This is a gain of 400%. Next, this is the chart for Anthem Blue Cross. When Obamacare was passed, Anthem Blue Cross stock was trading at $50. Now it is trading at $145. This is a gain of almost 300%. Next in alphabetical order is the chart for Humana. When Obamacare was passed, Humana stock was trading at $40. Now it is trading at $205. This is a gain of 500%. Finally, we have United Health. When Obamacare was passed, United Health stock was trading at $30. Now it is trading at $180. This is a gain of 600%. This is superb performance. These companies reward their CEOs very handsomely. Mark Bertolini of Aetna is paid a base salary of $17.6 million per year. This includes stock, which he can cash in later. This does not include any bonuses, side deals, or inside trading. Joseph Swedish of Blue Cross is paid a base salary of $13.5 million per year, including stock. This does not include any bonuses, side deals, or inside trading. This salary works out to $6,750 per hour if he worked 40 hours a week like his customers do. Bruce Broussard of Humana is paid a base salary of $10.3 million per year. Like his peers, he receives stock as part of his pay so that he can defer paying tax on it. Like his peers, he also receives bonuses and has access to side deals and inside trading. Stephen Hemsley of United Health is paid a base salary of $15 million per year. He too is able to defer his tax obligations by receiving stock. This base salary does not include bonuses, side deals, or inside trading. This is not to shame these gentlemen. Basically, I'm for everyone making as much as he can. However, these salaries are obscene, and they are, unfortunately, emblematic of the larger problem. I raise all of this because there is a lot of noise coming from D.C. that the Republicans are organizing to bring Obamacare to an end. This is ironic because, in point of fact, Obamacare is the Republican health care plan. In point of fact, the Republicans were not only able to get Obama and the Democrats to pass their plan, but they were also able to place the blame for it on the Democrats. This is all-time classic political jiu-jitsu. However, the Republicans spent so much time hammering away at the issue with their phony repeal votes that they wound up back in power. Now, the people want them to follow through. This is a problem for them because their lobbyists like Obamacare. In addition, the Republicans don't have any good ideas, and the ideas that they do have are going to make the system even worse. This is a political train wreck in the making. You can call this divine retribution. You can call this just desserts. Of course, we should not forget that if the Democrats had had a backbone, we would not be in this new national psychodrama over one of our most basic needs, help when we get sick. Before we examine the Republican ideas, let's remember where we are. The basics of Obamacare are pretty well known. Number one, it includes a mandate that everyone not in an employer plan or on a public plan must buy health insurance. Number two, all policies must meet the requirements of essential health benefits set by the National Academy of Medicine. Number three, there may be no discrimination for pre-existing conditions. Number four, there may be no gender discrimination, meaning that women cannot be charged more than men. Number five, there is no annual lifetime or benefit caps. Number six, a patient's annual out-of-pocket expenses are capped. Number seven, premiums charged to the oldest patients cannot be more than 3 times the amount charged to the youngest patients. Number eight, the minimum loss ratio is 80 to 85%, meaning that the maximum profit an insurance company can enjoy is 20%. Number nine, Obamacare provides subsidies to assist people with low or modest income to purchase insurance policies. Okay, now let's look at the major Republican ideas. This is an overview of the current Republican ideas. Number one, the Republicans argue that insurance companies should be allowed to sell insurance across state lines. They argue that this would increase competition, which in turn would lower the prices for the consumers. Unfortunately, like many Republican ideas, this is an open invitation to corruption. This would allow fly-by-night companies to get into the business and start collecting premiums, but go bankrupt as soon as they got into a little financial difficulty. It would also remove effective state regulation of the insurance companies. Number two, the Republicans propose that the minimum standards required of Obamacare policies should be eliminated and that the insurance companies should be allowed to sell catastrophic policies. The Republicans argue that these policies, which provide very limited coverage, will be much more affordable to the patients. Number three, the Republicans are willing to accept the rule that insurance companies must continue to accept people with pre-existing conditions. However, what the Republicans are not willing to accept is the rule that the sick cannot be charged more. As a result, a person with a pre-existing condition will find himself offered a policy that he simply cannot afford. Number four, the Republicans wish to force sick people into high-risk pools which are managed by the government. Unfortunately, the Republicans are unwilling to fund this high-risk pool. As a result, it is likely that sick people will not receive adequate medical care. Number five, by forcing sick people into high-risk pools, this would allow the insurance companies to keep only the healthy people who are much more profitable. Number six, the Republicans wish to change the ratio of the highest to the lowest premiums from 3 to 1 to 5 to 1. This means that the rates will increase for older people. Number seven, the Republicans propose to eliminate the required loss ratio in Obamacare. This means that there would be no limitation on how much profit an insurance company can make. Number eight, the Republicans wish to eliminate the subsidies. Instead, the Republicans would provide a tax credit of up to $3,000, which a taxpayer could then use to purchase an insurance policy. For example, if we examine the case of an average family man who makes $50,000 a year and pays tax of about 20%, or $10,000, the Republicans would reduce his tax bill to $7,000 and allow him to use that $3,000 left over to purchase an insurance policy. The problem is he's not going to be able to find an insurance policy for $3,000. Number 9 is the most pernicious of all. What the Republicans propose to do is to start taxing employer-provided insurance as income. Let's return to our case sample of the average family man who makes $50,000 and has a tax rate of 20%. Let's assume that his employer provides his family with a health care plan that costs $15,000. The Republican plan is that $15,000 would be added to his salary, and then he would be taxed on the total. Let's assume that his tax rate would not change. As you can see, his tax would go from being $10,000 to being $13,000. The Republican proposal, however, does not end here. In addition, the Republicans are proposing that the deduction the employer gets for providing health insurance to his employees be limited to $8,000. This means that any portion of the premium in excess of the $8,000 would not be deductible. Ultimately, this will force employees into less expensive, lower quality policies. In reality, this is part of the Republicans' long-standing effort to break unions. One of the most important benefits unions bargain for is health insurance. If the employers are not allowed to deduct the cost of health insurance policies, then they're never going to agree to provide them. This will undermine the union members' confidence in the union's ability to collectively bargain for adequate compensation. I have only addressed the Republicans' direct attack on Obamacare. They have some equally bad ideas on Medicaid and Medicare, which they appear intent on packaging with the Obamacare rewrite. Essentially, they want to privatize all profitable parts of the health insurance business and force people who are sick into underfunded government programs. If Mussolini was right about anything, it was his observation that history has proven that laissez-faire economics does not work. It always ends in disaster. While human initiative and progress are dependent upon a system of rewards, a society must rein in the excesses of the corruption it will breed. This goes tenfold for healthcare. When people are sick, they need help. They must be protected from those who will exploit their vulnerability. Obviously, this is an ethical argument. However, I am fairly confident that if people understand what the politicians are actually doing, there won't be very many who will buy into the pure dog-eat-dog economics the Republicans peddle under their phony invocation of freedom. A system which allows the powerful to exploit the vulnerable is the exact opposite of freedom. It is, in fact, a perversion of the American vision of government, in that it favors the powerful. In America, everyone is equal under the law. If we accept the proposition that we do want and deserve a top-tier healthcare system, there are only two questions which must be answered. First, how will we pay for it? And second, how can we make it affordable? As to the first question, there are two possible answers. On the one hand, we can retain a system in which basically everyone pays his own way, with the older paying more than the younger, and the government providing some assistance to those who cannot afford to make their payment. Under this system, someone like Mitt Romney only pays as much as any other guy his age who works for a living. On the other hand, we could adopt a plan more like France's. In France, everyone pays 5% of his income into the health system. Under a system like this, a person who makes $50,000 will have $2,500 deducted from his pay. A person who makes $1 million will have to pay $50,000 into the healthcare system. An American's initial response to the French system may be that it is unfair because the rich guy has to pay more. But so what? Regular people outnumber rich people and majority rules. Moreover, it is not unfair in terms of percentages. In percentages, it is exactly equal. And this may make it the most fair. In fact, $2,500 deducted from the regular person's pay will probably hurt him a lot more than $50,000 will hurt the rich guy. Finally, there are some rich people who are willing to help pay for the mutual benefits of a prosperous society. The trick with this second way is defining income. and this is a hornet's nest in America. This is beyond the scope of this brief, but suffice it to say, for the purposes of calculating the health care contribution, capital gains should be taxed as ordinary income, and other exclusions, deductions, and depreciations available to the rich should be eliminated. As to the second question, there is no doubt that we can cut costs. Let me address 5 points. First, 25% of the budgets of hospitals, clinics, and doctor practices is wasted on billing and administration. In addition, insurance companies lose 12% of their gross to the approval process and billing issues. There is some overlap in these figures with respect to the total expenditure per person, but it is probably fair to attribute fully 30% of healthcare costs to this friction. In comparison, Medicare only costs 2.1%. Thus, if everyone were on Medicare, and assuming everything else is equal, the average cost of healthcare in America would drop from $8,600 to $6,200 per person. Second, we should do as they do in France, which is mandate that health insurance be a nonprofit enterprise. In addition, 80% of the hospitals in France are nonprofit. I'm not sure how much this would save, but if we go by the ObamaCare number, that the insurance companies are guaranteed a 15% profit and apply that margin across the board, which I admit is not scientific, the cost per person would drop to $4,900. Third, if the risk pool were the entire population, we would have a great deal of leverage with the hospitals, the drug companies, and the equipment and device manufacturers. They would have to deal with us or be locked out of a huge market. With this kind of leverage, we surely could negotiate at least another 10% off of the overall cost. This would bring the cost per person down to about $4,000. Of course, with universal coverage and increased treatment, we are likely to see the cost per person rise somewhat. In addition, we have a doctor shortage in America, and this is likely to cause additional inconvenience. Fourth, a better functioning and more responsive healthcare system would result in earlier detection and treatment of disease. This would likely result in further cost savings and would help bring the total cost per person in line with the costs in France. It would also improve the quality of life in America. Fifth, there has to be some penalty on people who don't take care of themselves. We want to leave people free to do what they want with their bodies. But if they present to the medical system with self-inflicted maladies, they should have to pay some price for being irresponsible. The sad fact is that 5% of the people use 50% of the medical care, and a lot of this is due to their own life choices, and that's not fair to everyone else. In conclusion, one irony in American politics, which I suspect is universal, is that although people will always vote for change, most people are highly resistant to change. We know that people fear change. As they desperately cling to what they are familiar with and see it slipping through their fingers, the last thing they'll agree to is to let go and trust in a new future, to trust that the future can be better than the present. Mind you, we the people have been repeatedly betrayed by the politicians, so this suspicion and hesitance is not unwarranted. We the people are the people who have to make America great again. There is no reason why we shouldn't use our wealth to improve our society and our healthcare system. We, the people, are endowed with the rights in our Constitution. This is the power in our country. We, the people, do not have to accept the divisions being drawn and exploited by the one true minority in America. We, the people, do not have to accept rules imposed by the 1%. They have no real power. We outnumber them. We have the power. Some might disparage this as class warfare. That is, in fact, what it is. And I know what side I'm on. The way forward is to see clearly, to see bullshit for what it is, to see a better future, to decide that we want that better future, and to implement a plan to get there, to get beyond campaign slogans and to commit to being together as Americans for something more than Super Bowl Sunday.
Donald Trump said He will not cut Social Security. He will not cut Medicare. He will not cut Medicaid. Therefore, one of two things are true. Either Donald Trump simply lied to the elderly and the working people of this country and just made campaign promises that he had no intention of ever keeping. That is one reality. Or there is another reality. And that is right now, before Congress wastes an enormous amount of time, Donald Trump has got to come forward, maybe through one of his tweets, and say clearly that Donald Trump will veto any legislation that cuts Medicare, that cuts Medicaid, or that cuts Social Security.